Islam Makhachev has definitively shut the door on a return to lightweight for a potential super fight with champion Ilia Topuria, redirecting the challenge and advising El Matador to move up to welterweight if he wants the matchup. In a recent interview, Makhachev, who vacated the 155-pound title in 2025 after a dominant reign to become a two-division champion at welterweight, dismissed the notion of cutting weight for a belt he already owned. "For what? I had the belt at lightweight. No one beat me there. For a belt? That's not interesting to me," Makhachev stated plainly. His reasoning is rooted in legacy and risk assessment. Having already conquered the lightweight division with 4 successful title defenses, a return holds no competitive appeal for him. Instead, he sees the path for a super fight running through his new domain. Makhachev framed a move to 170 as the logical and low-risk option for Topuria. If Ilia wants to move up, then welcome. He can move up, because he has nothing to lose by moving up. If he loses, he goes back down to lightweight, and that's it. He'll defend his belt there, he explained. This perspective paints Makhachev as the established champion at a higher weight, with Topuria as the challenger seeking a greater challenge, a complete reversal of the narrative Topuria's fans might envision. Furthermore, Makhachev emphasized that Topuria has unfinished business in his own division. He pointed to the relentless callouts from top contender Arman Tsarukyan and Topuria's own lack of title defense since winning the belt, stating he hasn't proven anything in lightweight yet. He's got a lot of work to do there. This comment serves as both a critique of Topuria's reign and a justification for Makhachev's own disinterest in moving down. In essence, Makhachev has reframed the entire superfight conversation. He is no longer a former lightweight looking to reclaim his throne, but a reigning welterweight king issuing a challenge on his own terms. By telling Topuria to move up, he shifts the pressure onto the lightweight champion, forcing him to either accept a more difficult weight cut and a size disadvantage, or remain in his own division to solidify his legacy, a division Makhachev believes still has legitimate contenders waiting for their shot. The long-simmering, deeply personal rivalry between UFC legends Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones has violently erupted back into public view, proving that time, retirement, and even temporary professional collaboration cannot extinguish one of combat sport's most volatile and enduring feuds. After a period of tense civility while filming as opposing coaches on the reality series Ultif Reality 3 in Thailand, Jones recently shattered the fragile peace with a fresh barrage of scathing personal attacks, labeling Cormier an ass and a D over his alleged conduct toward fighters and staff during production. In a characteristically measured yet unflinching response on the Ariel Helwani show, Daniel Cormier offered a philosophy of cold, pragmatic realism that serves as the definitive statement on their fractured relationship. He confirmed that for the purposes of the show, a working professional cordiality was maintained. "We were around each other every single day, and we were cordial," Cormier stated, even acknowledging rare moments of levity. "There were times when Jon and I actually laughed at stuff." However, he was emphatic that this was a transactional necessity, not a thawing of decades of animosity. "But if I didn't have to be around him, I'm not going to voluntarily be around him. Why would I want that?" Cormier's core argument is a powerful rejection of the modern sports narrative that all great athletic rivalries must culminate in a sentimental embrace or public forgiveness. He directly invoked the irredeemable transgressions that define their history, the vicious insults traded about each other's families, and Jones's multiple anti-doping violations. "We spoke negatively about each other's families. We had a nasty, nasty situation. He cheated constantly," Cormier stated, his voice carrying the weight of those unforgotten wounds. "I don't have to let him off the hook or be his friend. That would be just going, everything you did is good. It's just not." This stance elevates their dynamic beyond mere bitterness into a conscious, principled choice. Cormier separates the ability to perform a job alongside someone from the moral obligation to offer personal absolution. "I can do my thing, but I don't have to be your friend," he explained, drawing a clear, permanent boundary. His concluding remarks framed this not as lingering hatred, but as a sober, adult perspective on conflict. Happy endings and fairy tales are for kids to go to bed at night. You don't have to be friends with everyone you had a problem with. I can do a show with him, want to beat him, and we don't have to be friends. You don't need to have fairy tale endings to everything in life. Life ain't fair. In essence, Cormier has publicly closed the book on any possibility of a reconciliatory final chapter. He accepts the rivalry for what it is, a defining, brutal conflict that forged both their legacies, produced two of the sport's most iconic fights, and left a residue of mutual respect for each other's prowess permanently alloyed with a disdain for each other's character. The message is clear. The story of Jones and Cormier doesn't need a redemptive epilogue. Its truth is in its unresolved, contentious, and fiercely competitive nature, a raw and real reflection of the complex lives lived at the peak of a brutal profession. Joe Pyfer is stepping into the UFC Seattle main event with a mission that extends far beyond securing a victory. He aims to author a definitive, violent chapter in middleweight history by becoming the first man to truly stop the legendary Israel Adesanya. The rising contender, who carries the menacing nickname Body Bags, is framing his March 28th showdown not as a respectful challenge, but as a calculated assault on one of the sport's most technically brilliant fighters, promising to apply a brand of pressure and power he believes the former two-time champion has never faced. In a candid appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, Pyfer left no ambiguity about his intentions. "I got this opportunity, and I'm absolutely bringing the heat," he stated, his confidence palpable. He then articulated the core of his ambition. "I'm going to try to be the first one to stop him in a really bad way." This isn't merely prediction, it's a declaration of a specific physical outcome. Pyfer respects the competition, but is convinced his attributes pose a unique threat, claiming he holds the capabilities over anyone in the division to really hurt someone where they don't move. His strategic approach is built entirely around neutralizing Adesanya's greatest strengths. Pyfer plans to smother the last stylebender's pristine footwork and sniper-like striking with relentless close-quarters aggression. "I'm going to be a really physical guy, putting pressure, but smart pressure. I'm going to cause damage," he elaborated. This smart pressure is key, indicating an understanding that blindly rushing Adesanya is a path to disaster. To craft this game plan, Pyfer revealed his camp is already in a targeted search, drafting people to mimic him, a testament to the meticulous preparation underway to solve one of MMA's most complex puzzles. The stakes surrounding this fight night headliner could not be higher, creating a perfect narrative storm. For Joe Pyfer, a victory represents a quantum leap. It would transform him from a promising, power-punching prospect on a 3-fight win streak into an instant title contender and one of the sport's most feared figures. For Adesanya, this is a pivotal moment of recalibration. Following the loss of his title, a dominant win reasserts his status as the division's apex predator and silences any talk of decline. A loss, however, especially a decisive one, would mark a seismic shift in the 185-pound landscape. Stylistically, the fight is a compelling contrast. Pyfer, the bulldozing force with 9 knockouts on his record, represents raw, concussive power and a desire to drag the fight into a phone booth. Adesanya, the artist with unparalleled striking creativity and fight IQ, will look to use the entire canvas, picking apart his aggressive foe with precision and timing. Pyfer's promise of an early, brutal finish sets a dramatic tone, ensuring the buildup will be charged with anticipation. On March 28th in Seattle, we will discover if Body Bags can translate his menacing prophecy into reality, or if Israel Adesanya will once again demonstrate that in the realm of elite mixed martial arts, sublime skill can be the most devastating force of all. The UFC's highly anticipated launch into its new Paramount Plus era is being overshadowed by a mounting injury crisis, transforming what was meant to be a celebratory fresh start into a period of frantic reshuffling and major event surgery. In a devastating 1-2 punch, both of the promotion's inaugural 2026 pay-per-views have now been stripped of significant fights just weeks and days before their scheduled dates, testing the operational resilience of the world's leading MMA organization. The latest blow came to UFC 325, scheduled for January 31st in Sydney, Australia. Promising Australian light heavyweight Jimmy Crute announced via Instagram that he has suffered a complete ACL rupture, forcing him out of his pivotal bout against American striker Dustin Jacoby. Crute, who had rebuilt his career with a strong 2-0-1 run in 2025, was a cornerstone of the card's local appeal. His injury is a dual setback. It derails his own hard-earned momentum and removes a key homegrown talent from a Sydney event designed to showcase Australian fighters. In his announcement, Crute struck a resilient but disappointed tone. "On Monday, I completely ruptured my ACL. I'm out of my fight Feb 1 against Dustin. I'm extremely disappointed. Little speed bump, but I'll be back stronger." This news follows the catastrophic cancellation that hit UFC 324 just days earlier. The historic co-main event between bantamweight champion Kayla Harrison and the returning GOAT Amanda Nunes was scrapped after Harrison suffered a severe neck injury requiring surgery. This wasn't just any fight, it was the sole reason for Nunes' comeback and a legacy-defining super fight years in the making. Its loss created such a unique void that unified boxing world champion Amanda Serrano publicly volunteered as a short-notice replacement, tweeting, "If UFC and Amanda Nunes are thinking of a replacement, I would love the challenge, as I'm still in fight shape." While a fascinating crossover notion, it underscores the lack of a logical in-house matchup that carries comparable stakes for Nunes. For UFC CEO Dana White, these consecutive blows represent a severe stress test at the worst possible time. UFC 324, January 24th, and UFC 325 are not ordinary events. They are the foundational pillars of the promotion's groundbreaking $7.7 billion, 7-year broadcast partnership with Paramount Plus. The debut was meant to signal a new era of stability and blockbuster programming. Instead, White and matchmakers Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby are now in deep crisis management mode, tasked with patching together two flagship cards under immense pressure. The challenges are layered. For UFC 325, the decision is whether to find a new opponent for Dustin Jacoby to keep a meaningful fight on the Sydney card or to scrap the bout entirely. For the far more pressing issue of UFC 324, the options are all poor. Finding a worthy replacement for Nunes on 10 days' notice is nearly impossible. Elevating another fight, like the pivotal Sean O'Malley vs. Song Yadong bantamweight clash, to the co-main slot is the most likely but underwhelming solution. This is a developing situation, and the latest twist comes from a top contender directly lobbying for the opportunity. Following the official news that Kayla Harrison has withdrawn from UFC 324 due to a neck injury requiring surgery, streaking Brazilian bantamweight Norma Dumont has publicly thrown her name into the ring as a potential short-notice replacement to face the returning Amanda Nunes. The loss of the Harrison-Nunes super fight is a catastrophic blow to the UFC's plans for its Paramount Plus era debut. Promoted as the greatest women's MMA fight ever assembled, its cancellation with just 10 days' notice leaves a gaping hole in the card and creates a near-impossible matchmaking puzzle for UFC CEO Dana White. The situation is uniquely complex because the injured fighter is the reigning champion, making discussions of an interim title both logical and fraught with risk. Enter Norma Dumont, the division's number 3 ranked contender. In a video posted to social media, Dumont made a direct and prepared pitch to the promotion. "Hey everyone, I just found out that Amanda and Kayla's fight is off, and I already told the UFC that I've kept my weight down because I knew this might happen," Dumont stated. She emphasized her readiness, saying, "I'm training, I'm good, and I've already let them know I'm available to fight in 10 days, in a month, in 2 or 3 months. I'm ready to go." She even floated the prospect of an interim title fight against Amanda. Dumont's call-out is strategically savvy. She is on a 5-fight winning streak, one of the longest active runs in the division, and her lone UFC loss came over 3 years ago. Her willingness to step in aligns with her consistent campaigning for a title shot. However, the UFC faces a monumental decision. Booking Nunes, who ended her retirement solely for the historic Harrison fight against any other opponent on 10 days' notice, drastically diminishes the spectacle and legacy stakes. There is a significant risk that if Nunes were to lose in a hastily arranged interim bout, the once-in-a-lifetime allure of the Harrison super fight could evaporate entirely. The promotion's other unappealing options include scrapping the women's bantamweight title fight from UFC 324 entirely, elevating the Sean O'Malley vs. Song Yadong bout to the co-main event, and attempting to rebook Nunes at a later date. For Norma Dumont, this public plea is a high-stakes gamble for recognition, but for the UFC, the calculation is about preserving the value of its biggest assets under immense pressure. The next 48 hours will be critical in determining the fate of UFC 324's co-main event and the immediate future of the women's 135-pound division. Mauricio Ruffy is approaching his pivotal UFC 325 comeback against Rafael Fiziev with a new corner and a renewed mindset, marking a temporary but significant departure from his famed Fighting Nerds team. After a difficult 2025 that saw the previously undefeated Brazilian squad, including Ruffy, suffer a string of high-profile losses, the lightweight is opting for a change in scenery and support staff to reset his trajectory. To properly prepare for the Sydney event, Ruffy has based his entire training camp in Australia, working closely with featherweight champion and local hero Alexander Volkanovski and his team at City Kickboxing. This decision means his primary coaches from the Fighting Nerds, Flavio Alvaro and Pablo Sucupira, will not be in his corner on fight night. Ruffy was quick to clarify this isn't a permanent split, but a logistical necessity. "I'm still on Fighting Nerds, but in this fight, Flavio and Pablo will not be in my corner," he explained, citing Sucupira's commitments to other fighters and his new responsibilities as a father. This period of adversity has given Ruffy a clearer perspective on the fight business. "I'm grateful to God because it's good to know how it works on the side of the story when you lose," he reflected. "The media and all of this stuff is only good when you know success. Now I know how it works in the bad moment." This mature outlook frames his loss with Benoit Saint-Denis not as a crushing failure, but as a necessary lesson that has motivated him to seek improvement in a high-performance environment. The stakes for his fight against the dangerous and explosive Rafael Fiziev are immense. A win re-establishes Ruffy as a serious threat in the lightweight division and validates his decision to train abroad. A loss, however, would place him on a 2-fight skid and raise questions about his future trajectory. By immersing himself in Volkanovski's world-class camp, Ruffy is betting on himself in a new system to provide the spark needed to reignite the hype that once surrounded him and the Fighting Nerds. His comeback is about more than just a victory. It's about proving his resilience and adaptability in the face of the first real setback of his UFC career. The UFC's purpose-built home in Las Vegas has a new corporate identity and a wider mandate, reflecting the promotion's deepening ties with the tech world. On January 14, 2026, UFC CEO Dana White announced that the UFC Apex facility will now be known as the Meta Apex, following a new 5-year naming rights agreement with Meta Platforms, Inc. This formalizes a partnership that began in 2025 and establishes Meta as the UFC's official fan technology partner. The deal is a natural extension of the relationship already visible in broadcasts, which have featured integrations of Meta products like Quest VR headsets and Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. White, who joined Meta's board of directors in 2025, framed the rebrand as a key step in changing fan engagement, stating that Meta's technology will be central to transforming the live fight experience. Meta's chief marketing officer, Alex Schultz, echoed this, calling the Meta Apex a venue to redefine how fans and athletes connect and experience the sport. Beyond the signage change, the partnership promises a more immersive technological layer for events held at the venue. Plans include dedicated activation spaces where attendees can try VR experiences, AI features, and wearable tech directly tied to the live action. Concepts like interactive VR viewing from cage-side seats and the use of smart glasses for augmented reality stats during fights are being highlighted as examples of the venue's future as a blended TV studio, tech lab, and intimate arena. This rebrand coincides with a significant physical and operational overhaul of the venue itself. Owned by UFC parent company TKO Group, the Meta Apex is undergoing renovations scheduled for completion later in 2026. The upgrades will expand fan capacity to approximately 1,000 seats, add improved concessions and retail areas, and overhaul the entrance and lobby. Most notably, for the first time, tickets to all events will be available to the general public, moving the venue away from its previous model of invitation-only crowds. The facility's role is also expanding beyond UFC Fight Nights and Dana White's Contender Series. It will continue to host UFC BJJ events and remain the home base for the burgeoning Power Slap League. A major new addition is that it will serve as the primary venue for Zuffa Boxing, Dana White's long-gestating boxing promotion. The first Zuffa boxing card is slated for January 23, 2026, headlined by Callum Walsh versus Carlos Ocampo, with an ambitious target of 12 shows throughout the year. In essence, the Meta Apex represents the next evolution of the UFC's in-house production hub. It is transforming from a closed, pandemic-era necessity into a multifunctional, technology-forward entertainment complex designed to host a wider array of TKO's combat sports properties while serving as a living showcase for Meta's vision of the future of fan interaction. In a move said to transform the fan experience for its landmark Paramount Plus debut, the UFC will introduce an interactive multicam view for the UFC 324 pay-per-view on January 24th. The announcement, first signaled by veteran MMA journalist John Morgan, promises to give viewers unprecedented control over their broadcast, though the precise mechanics of the technology remain under wraps. The core question from fans is immediate. Does this mean you can choose whatever camera you want? While official details are still emerging, industry experts suggest the feature will likely fall short of a true directorial free-for-all, but will still represent a seismic shift from traditional, linear broadcasting. This innovation is a natural evolution of experiments the UFC and other sports leagues have conducted with alternate broadcasts. However, its launch at UFC 324 is strategically significant. The event is the first under the promotion's new broadcast deal with Paramount Plus, and introducing a flagship interactive feature immediately sets a new standard for the partnership. Furthermore, it aligns perfectly with the UFC's deepening technological alliance with Meta, recently cemented by the renaming of the UFC Apex to the Meta Apex. While not confirmed, the multicam view could leverage Meta's platforms or be a precursor to more immersive VR and AR integrations using MetaQuest headsets in the near future. The implications for fans are profound. Hardcore analysts have long desired an unobstructed wide-angle view to study fight dynamics without rapid cuts. The removal of commentary offers a raw, visceral experience, immersing the viewer in the true sounds of combat. For the UFC, it's a powerful value proposition for the digital Paramount Plus service model, offering an interactive perk that traditional cable cannot match.
While we may not yet be able to manually operate a camera flying around the octagon, UFC 324's multicam view is a decisive step toward personalized sports consumption. It shifts the power from the broadcast director to the viewer, allowing each fan to curate their own fight night experience based on whether they seek analysis, atmosphere, or pure, unfiltered action. The exact specifications will be clarified soon, but one thing is clear: how we watch the UFC is about to change.
Alexander Volkanovski is strategically mapping out the final chapters of his legendary career, using his upcoming title defense at UFC 325 as a springboard for an active run aimed at settling the featherweight division's pecking order once and for all. Facing Diego Lopes in a rematch that has drawn criticism for bypassing more deserving contenders, Volkanovski isn't just focused on winning, he's focused on winning in a specific way that allows him to immediately address the logjam at the top of the 145-pound weight class. In a recent interview, the champion laid out a clear two-part plan. The first objective is to efficiently handle the dangerous but known quantity in Diego Lopes. "I plan on going out there, I don't want to take any damage, and I want to have a quick turnaround," Volkanovski stated, emphasizing his desire to emerge from the fight healthy and ready to compete again swiftly. This approach is a direct acknowledgement of the frustration that is built up around the title picture, where the undefeated wrestling specialist Movsar Evloev and the hard-hitting 9-fight win streak of Lerone Murphy have been forced to wait. The second and more significant part of Volkanovski's plan directly addresses those two men. He explicitly named Evloev and Murphy as the fighters he intends to face next, offering a public guarantee to the division. Then maybe we can do it with someone like Movsar or Lerone Murphy. Again, I know they'll be disappointed, but that fight won't be too far away because I'll make sure that happens. This statement is a masterstroke of political maneuvering. It validates the claims of Evloev and Murphy, placates fans and analysts who saw the Lopes rematch as a step backward, and reframes Volkanovski not as a champion avoiding tough challenges, but one actively seeking to clear out the top of the division on an accelerated timeline. Volkanovski's mindset reflects that of a champion aware of his legacy and the limited time he has left at his peak. He is intent on leaving no unresolved business. By promising a quick return against either Evloev or Murphy, he transforms the narrative around the Lopes fight. It is no longer a contentious detour, but the first step in a decisive championship tour designed to cement his final reign and answer every remaining question about who is the true best featherweight in the world. For Evloev and Murphy, the message is clear. Their long-awaited shots are finally within sight, with the champion himself now acting as the primary advocate for making those fights a reality. The highly anticipated UFC 324 co-main event, a historic women's bantamweight title fight between champion Kayla Harrison and the returning legend Amanda Nunes, has been officially scrapped just 10 days before the event. According to a breaking report, Harrison has suffered a severe neck injury that will require surgical intervention, forcing her withdrawal from the monumental matchup. This cancellation is a devastating blow to the fight's immense legacy stakes. The bout was framed as a true super fight, a clash of eras between the undefeated Olympic judoka champion who has dominated the division and the greatest female fighter of all time, who ended her retirement specifically for this challenge. For Nunez, this fight was the singular reason for her comeback, a chance to definitively reclaim the throne from the sport's new powerhouse. There exists no other opponent in the division that carries equivalent historical significance or fan interest for the Lioness, making a simple replacement impossible. With the January 24th date looming, the UFC is thrust into a severe logistical crisis. The promotion's options are limited and fraught with compromise. Finding a suitable short-notice opponent for Nunez is highly improbable and risks undermining the prestige of her return. The alternative of booking an interim title fight with another contender would feel like a hollow consolation prize, lacking the defining narrative of the Harrison showdown.
The most likely outcome is the complete removal of the bout from the card, elevating the pivotal Sean O'Malley vs. Song Yadong matchup to the co-main event slot. A strong fight, but one that represents a significant drop in anticipated star power. The long-term ramifications for the women's bantamweight division are profound and immediate. Kayla Harrison's reign is now on indefinite hold as she enters a recovery period that could span much of 2026, effectively freezing the title picture. Amanda Nunes' fighting future is cast into serious doubt as the unique appeal of facing Harrison may not translate to any other available matchup. The entire contender landscape is left in a state of uncertainty, with top fighters having no clear path forward while awaiting news on the champion's health. While the interim lightweight title fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett remains a compelling headliner, UFC 324 has undeniably lost its most unique and generation-defining attraction. The dream showdown between two of combat sport's most formidable athletes has been postponed, and the path to eventually rebooking it is now shrouded in the uncertainty of medical recovery and fighter motivation.
Dakota Ditcheva isn't avoiding a super fight with a legend like Valentina Shevchenko or Chris Cyborg out of fear of the fight itself. Instead, she's navigating the far more complex and treacherous landscape of legacy, perception, and the unforgiving court of public opinion that surrounds such matchups. In a revealing conversation, the undefeated PFL star pinpointed the no-win narrative trap that a fight with Valentina Shevchenko represents. She admitted to Ariel Helwani that she would love the matchup, but her hesitation is strategic and perceptive. "I feel like people want the fight, but there would be so many excuses on both sides to who would end up winning," Ditcheva explained. She laid out the brutal binary outcome. If she won, critics would claim Valentina was past it. If she lost, the narrative would instantly become she wasn't ready, there was too much hype. For Ditcheva, the fight is stylistically fascinating, but narratively poisoned, a legacy clash where the victor's accomplishment is automatically diminished and the loser's stock plummets. She respects Shevchenko as the technical GOAT, acknowledging her unparalleled fight IQ and distance control, but understands that in the eyes of fans, beating a legend is never just about beating a legend, it's about timing, and the timing is always wrong in hindsight. The proposed showdown with Cyborg presents a different, more logistical set of hurdles. After Cyborg called her out for a retirement fight, Ditcheva's response was one of pragmatic calculation rather than outright refusal. The issue isn't willingness, it's weight and worth. Ditcheva, a natural flyweight, questioned the feasibility of Cyborg making 135 pounds and was candid about the financial incentive needed to make such a high-risk fight worthwhile. "If she was even close to 135 and you paid me some big money, hell yeah, I'd get in there," she stated, framing it as a business decision. More pointedly, she rejected the idea that such a fight would be a gift from Cyborg, arguing instead that her own unbeaten record and rising star power bring equal, if not greater, value to the table. Cyborg may want a grand finale, but Ditcheva recognizes she would be the co-star, not a supporting actor in that story. Ditcheva's stance reveals a modern fighter's acute awareness of career architecture. She is openly managing the narrative and economic variables that define elite combat sports, understanding that legacy fights are often minefields where the sporting result is only half the battle. Her hesitation isn't born of a lack of confidence in her skills, but of a surplus of clarity about the game beyond the cage. She is willing to face legends, but only on terms that make sense, terms that protect her long-term value and ensure that a victory is seen as a triumph, not an asterisk. In an era where perception is reality, Dakota Ditcheva is proving she knows how to read the room.
It sounds like Justin Gaethje is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. His focus is squarely on winning the interim lightweight title from Paddy Pimblett at UFC 324.
but his grand plan for 2026 involves a strategic detour that avoids the expected path and targets a more personal and perhaps more lucrative prize. While the standard assumption is that the UFC 324 winner will face the returning undisputed champion, Ilia Topuria, to unify the belts, Gaethje has a different dream matchup in mind. He's looking past Topuria and toward a different champion entirely, Max Holloway. Specifically, Gaethje is hoping the stars align for a chance to avenge his legendary UFC 300 knockout loss to Holloway and claim the symbolic BMF title in the process. I hope Max wins. I hope Ilia goes up, that is, to welterweight, and then I can fight Max on the White House card and take the BMF belt and the championship, Gaethje recently stated. This reveals a multi-part plan. First, he needs Holloway to successfully defend his BMF belt against Charles Oliveira at UFC 326 in March. Second, he's banking on Ilia Topuria moving up in weight, which would vacate or bypass the traditional lightweight title picture. If both those things happen, Gaethje envisions a blockbuster showdown with Holloway for both the BMF strap and the status of true top lightweight, all on the historic stage of the UFC White House card in June. This ambition doesn't come in a vacuum. Gaethje is acutely aware that another top contender, Arman Tsarukyan, has also publicly called for a shot at the BMF champion, setting up a potential conflict. But for now, Gaethje is maintaining the intensely focused, almost fatalistic mindset that has defined his recent camps. When asked about planning past UFC 324, he bluntly replied, "Nope, I've said it before, I don't even plan on being alive after the fight, so if that's how it ends, that's how it ends." In short, Gaethje's roadmap is clear, but contingent on several major outcomes. He must first get through Paddy Pimblett, then he needs Holloway to win and Ilia Topuria to move on. If that perfect storm occurs, the highlight could headline the White House in a legacy-defining rematch that's about more than gold. It's about redemption, violence, and the BMF title he once held.
Sean O'Malley is looking at his upcoming fight against Song Yadong at UFC 324 as the definitive start of the second chapter of his career. After 2 consecutive losses to the relentless Merab Dvalishvili derailed his championship run, O'Malley is adamant that the champion's mindset never left him. He stated his goal is crystal clear: go in, put on a clinic against a dangerous opponent in Song Yadong, and use that performance to catapult himself right back into the title picture. For O'Malley, the only thing that's changed is the fight length. It's back to a 3-round main event instead of a 5-round title fight. The stakes for this return couldn't be higher. Song Yadong is a formidable striker with serious knockout power, making him a perilous test for anyone, especially someone coming off a loss. A defeat here would be catastrophic for O'Malley's plans, likely pushing him far down the contenders ladder. However, a decisive and impressive victory, particularly a highlight reel finish, immediately restores his status as a top-tier attraction and makes his call for a title shot impossible to ignore. The most compelling and logical destination for O'Malley, should he win, is a blockbuster rematch with the new bantamweight champion, Petr Yan. Their first fight in 2022 was a razor-close split decision that went O'Malley's way, a result debated by fans and analysts to this day. A second fight isn't just a title eliminator, it's a massive legacy fight to settle the score, loaded with built-in story and fan interest. This is exactly the kind of high-profile, championship-level matchup that the UFC would want to feature on a landmark event like the historic White House card planned for June 2026. Of course, the path is never simple. Even if O'Malley navigates past Song Yadong and then past Petr Yan, the ghost of Merab Dvalishvili, the man who beat him twice, would still be waiting in the wings for a potential trilogy fight. Furthermore, other elite contenders like Umar Nurmagomedov are also vying for their shot. But for now, O'Malley's entire world is focused on Song Yadong. A win reignites the Suga show and sets the stage for the biggest and most lucrative fights of his career, with a chance to write a spectacular second chapter that ends with him once again holding the belt.